of West Northamptonshire Council, Executive Director, Finance. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we start, a word of appreciation, please, for Roderick Elder, Pipe Major Roderick Elder, who's at the back. Thank you very much. Apologies, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies have been received from Councillors Anne Addison, William Barter, Lizzie Bowen, Alan Chandler, Karen Cooper, Ray Connolly, Daniel Cribbin, Gareth Eales, Terry Eales, David James, Jamie Lane, Greg Lunn, Charles Manners, Colin Morgan, Penny Flavel, Lisa Samiotis and Sue Sharps.
Any more? Yes.
Chair, our leader is somewhere between Dustin and here at the moment, so she will be appearing any moment. But she apologises for her late arrival.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any declarations of interest on tonight's agenda? No. Item 3, firstly, I would like to thank members and officers who supported the civic service. I've had many notes of appreciation as to the quality of the service. It went down extremely well. We now remember 2 former councillors. I should say a word about each. I understand that if members wish to add words of their own, please do so in each case after I've mentioned them. Firstly, Wendy Amos was a member of Daventry District Council from 1996 until 2012, representing the Floor Ward and also serving as chairman of the council. Husband Richard was a member of Northamptonshire County Council until his very sudden death in 2006. Together, they ran the Crossroads Hotel and Restaurant in Weedon. They were dedicated to supporting the local community and were part of the very successful campaign to construct the Floor bypass, which opened in 2018. Wendy was herself also a tremendous bridge player and traveller, travelling in her 80s to India and also travelling across the world almost, certainly to America and to Russia with my wife Judy and myself. So she will be missed. Adam Brown, I believe, wants to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Chairman. And yes, I'd like to pay tribute to former councillor Wendy Amos, who to me was Auntie Wendy, and who was never present in my life, first and foremost as a family member, but also something of a political mentor and inspiration. Without her example and that of my late Uncle Richard, a former county councillor himself, as you've mentioned, I'm far from certain that I would ever have found my way into politics. But on childhood visits to their home in Floor, they were often to be found stuffing envelopes to be delivered to residents or preparing for the next political meeting or event. And they were doing so as people who had enjoyed a successful career as hoteliers, who had umpteen choices of how to spend their time, but instead decided to serve the community they had been a part of for so long. My auntie was the very epitome of politics being about trying to do something, not about trying to be someone. And that dedication, that selflessness, left an indelible mark on me and many others. Even after she left elected politics, she continued to serve. And I doubt that there were many Conservative councillors from the Daventry constituency in this chamber who haven't at one time or another been grilled or even gently chastised by my auntie, who set high standards for herself and for others. On a fair few occasions, I was the subject of a kind yet firm reminder of the correct way to go about things, and I'm not much the better for it, both as a politician and as a person. I'll miss her support, her guidance, and her wisdom, as I'll miss everything else about her. But I am forever grateful for having known her and incredibly proud to be able to follow in her footsteps.
Thank you. Councillor William Goodridge, didn't know he was called William, certainly not Bill. William Alfred Goodridge passed away also recently. He was also a member of Daventry District Council from 1979 to 2003, mainly representing the Drayton ward. He was a member of Northamptonshire County Council from 81 to 1993, representing Daventry West. Alf was awarded MBE for service to the community and served as Mayor of Daventry on 5 occasions. He successfully campaigned with others for the new build of Daintree Hospital, and in his later years was an active member of Friends of Daintree Hospital. I think those of us that did serve with him on Daventry will remember him primarily as the absolute driving force for the creation of the Daventry Town Council. And I do wonder whether it would have happened at all during that period without his forceful and very repetitive advocacy about that development. Is there any speaker wishes to add to those remarks? Otherwise, no. In that case, in the usual fashion, we'll please stand for a few minutes, round of applause. Thank you. There are 2 requests to address the meeting under the item 4, Housing Allocations Programme. Jean Lineker, please, first. Jean Lineker, you have 3 minutes to speak.
Right. I've been here before, so you can... I'm bad at breathing at the moment, so you'll have to forgive me if I take a little bit longer. I'm talking about the acquisitions on housing. I couldn't speak much of the Cabinet. I got upset on this because I was kept waiting. We were there for a long time. And my problem is, why isn't Northampton and the government that's in charge of Northampton, please take note, there's 4,000 on the waiting list. Why can't we see to those first before, the Afghans? This government is doing things wrong that's upsetting people. People talk about it, but they don't say anything. All the people that are coming over here, our Northampton people don't get an earthly chance. In Northampton, also in private houses, some of the people that are elderly, young in private places are being kicked out of private property. This I'm worried about. And I'm worried about the Afghans coming over here for who we choose to come over here. Because we've got too much crime in this area at the moment. And that's what I'm worried about. The people in the hotels, I hope they've been severely checked. If it's these people, I hope they have been checked, because we don't want no knife crimes here anymore. And also, please, I'm asking you and I'm begging you to deal with the 4,000 that are on the waiting list. I did have a load of speeches to say, but I'm so angry with what this government are doing. And you're following suit because you're in charge of Northampton. They're making you scapegoats. So be careful on your voting when it comes to voting. very sorry for the Afghans. But you need to check them vigorously. I'm quite concerned for the people of Northampton, and so should you be.
Thank you, Mrs. Lineker.
Thank you.
That's 3
Bye.
minutes. Thank you. Kim Fuller, please. Not here. Sorry, is Kim Fuller here?
Yes, she is, yes.
Mrs. Fuller, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. The budget that you require, the £10 million, how much is this being paid to Palantir and its associates? The same Palantir not only has access and stores our personal history with the US, but is working with the NHS, Cabinet Office, Ministry of Defence, Levelling Up and Homes for Ukraine, just to name a few. This is Peter Thiel, CIA-backed data mining firm, the same Peter Thiel of PayPal. Also, there is, sorry because I arrived late. This same Ukraine, Palantir, it has a, it also data collection and collaboration during times of conflict. It also works with DLUHC and local authorities, use Foundry to collate, clean, secure and merge data from disparate income sources, from Home Office visa applications to border force arrivals data, to expression of interest, forms of the public, creating one single pane of glass through which officials and caseworkers can effectively manage and ensure the safe resettling of refugees. The success of the scheme and the flexibility of its technical implications mean that both policy and software can be extended hand in hand to cover arrivals by unaccompanied minors. The impact so far is 100,000 plus visa holders have arrived in the UK, 159,000 plus visa applications received, with 137,200 visas issued, 2,000 plus users across all local authorities in England and Northern Ireland, and 190,000 plus safeguarding checks logged in England and in Northern Ireland. Thank you. What will you be doing, Palantir? Can we know what is, if you're working with Palantir, and why we haven't been told that our data has been used and stored in the United States? Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Fuller. Thank you. Yes.
He's indicated to speak.
Well, later on, yes, okay. Thank you. Item 4, Councillor Brown will introduce this item. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. This is an important scheme to assist the needs of Ukrainian and Afghan families, those Ukrainian families who came over in the wake of Vladimir Putin's illegal war in Ukraine, and the Afghan families fleeing the terrors of the Taliban in their home country. West Northamptonshire Council has been offered a total of just over £5 million of government grants to support those housing needs. And the scheme requires the council to provide or source match funding of 50 to 60% of the property values and to deliver 40 properties in total, including 3 units of temporary accommodation. In the first instance, WNC prioritised using our partner housing associations to deliver the acquisitions and provide the match funding. This has the benefit of reducing the demand on public finances. Thus far, they have only been able to identify 24 potential sites for acquisition, meaning that WNC may have to step in and meet the shortfall if we are to deliver the scheme. Failure to provide homes under this scheme would mean that the council would have to meet its legal duty to relieve homelessness as and when it arises by means of temporary accommodation. Temporary accommodation is extremely costly and impacts upon the general fund revenue budget, placing strain on other services. The capital and borrowing costs for this programme are contained within the ring-fenced housing revenue account. The borrowing costs associated with the council's maximum potential outlay are significantly cheaper than keeping families in temporary accommodation. There is also a wider benefit to the general population of this scheme, which is that if and when the first families move on from these properties, the housing stock would remain with WNC or the housing association that purchased the properties. Government has set out no clawback provision or longer-term rights over that housing stock. The borrowing costs set out in the report will be offset by income from the properties, whether direct rental payment or housing benefit. It's important to note that there is no flexibility within this government scheme to repurpose this funding for other parts of the population or for a different property mix. This is very much a use it or lose it scenario, and the long-term benefits of having a 40 to 50% subsidy to acquire housing stock should not be overlooked. The consequences of being forced into a position where we have to provide temporary accommodation to these families would place an immense strain on the general fund. It's something that we absolutely have to avoid, and therefore I urge Council to approve the recommendations before us this evening.
Thank you. I have been notified of 5 members that wish to speak. I shall call them in this order: Councillors Purser, Randall, Beardsworth, Harris and Hinch. Councillor Bob Purser.
David Smith needs to second that.
Well, all right. It is, you're absolutely right. Oh, dear. It's the excitement of the moment. The seconder is David Smith. To second, please.
Thank you, Chair. Absolutely support this. Nothing further to add at this stage, so reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
There we are. I thought you might say that. Councillor Bob Purser.
Thank you, Chair. The Labour Group fully supports this initiative, which is actually quite urgent, and it's good that it's been brought urgently to this council. It's particularly important because as a council we've played a significant role in supporting Afghan and Ukrainian refugees in this area, and it's right that we should play our part in accommodating them. It's right that we've got 4,000 families on the waiting list. That's 12,000 people. We have a huge housing crisis, but I see that this is a ring-fenced amount of money, but it does require us to approach urgently the needs of those people on the waiting list. And I think this is, if the government can do it for this group, then it should be doing it for everyone. Of course, the devil will be in the detail with these things, but I urge and it might have been better if the administration had done this in-house from the start, but these are lessons learned, and next time, we will know that we can do it ourselves better and more quickly. I think it would be good for us as the Home Secretary has made a statement about people having to leave their hotels in a matter of weeks. This is a really worrying statement. I think we should know what the implications are for our Northamptonshire families and what will happen. I would very much hope that in that situation they would not be made homeless and that we as locally would not have to pick up the financial consequence of that. But broadly, we support this. We do support this initiative and urge the administration to approach it with speed so that we actually get these houses and people into them as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wendy Randall.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this does highlight, and my fellow councillor has highlighted also that we have got a huge amount of people on the waiting list. So looking forward, once this scheme is finished and you've highlighted how much it does cost for temporary accommodation, that it would become much cheaper overall for us to build our own properties to house people and get them off the housing list. So yes, you know, I do support this, but I'm also very wary about the amount of people that are stuck on our waiting list, sofa surfing, living in awful conditions. My concern too was, you know, if these families have got to be out of the hotels and these homes aren't ready, where are they going to go and who is picking up that bill? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sally Beardsworth.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I welcome this because basically people have been in hotels far too long. It must be miserable for them with families living in those circumstances. So I'm really pleased that this is ahead. I do have some reservations. I'm worried about the housing stock we're buying. Will it be subject to the right to buy in 5 years' time? Because I'm hoping it won't be, but that's a real concern to me, whether we'll lose those properties that we've bought for people. Also, we have 4,000 people, as you know, and we are still losing a considerable amount of properties throughout the country through the right to buy. And we are not building enough houses even to replace those. So I think we need to talk to the government more. I think the government needs to do more in building houses. My colleague has got some statistics behind me and he'll be able to enlighten you more. But I'm pleased that these people will be coming out of the hotels. It's not an existence I would want to live in, and we must do more for the 4,000 people on our waiting list. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jonathan Harris.
Thank you, Chair. I concur with all of the speakers that have gone before. This is very much welcome and much needed. I have a few questions to pose, though, and I start my first question with a caveat because some of you might think that the question I'm going to ask is rather facetious. It's not. It's a genuine attempt to understand how England finds a solution to social housing needs in the broadest terms. Some of you may have caught ITN News last night. It was revealed that some 7,500 new social homes were built in the past year across England. 25,000 of those were sold under right to buy, and 3,000 further were demolished. Doesn't take much to do the maths on that. We have a huge problem that just simply is getting work. The other issue that baffles me slightly is last week the Department for Levelling Up, Housing and Communities, the clues in the housing and communities bit, said that it had handed back £1.9 billion to the Treasury, quotes, after struggling to find projects to spend it on. That seems totally ludicrous and baffling, I have to say, that we find ourselves in this situation. There is a desperate need and we can't meet it. I want to know whether anyone from this council has actually gone back to the Department for Levelling Up and perhaps suggested that there are plenty of opportunities to spend £1.9 billion. Everyone has spoken about the 4,000 people in our area. If you look at the total wait list across the country, it's in the millions, literally in the millions. Second point I'd like to make, the report mentions there's no climate impact. Technically, on one level, you can argue that's the case. But I hope and would like to seek reassurance that the houses that are acquired meet good standards of installation, and if not, that they fall within a programme to put them right, simply to lower the impact on the environment, but also to lower the cost to run them. And finally, I think we have clarification that these houses will go back into our social housing stock, which is good to hear. But again, the right to buy situation is going to potentially keep adding to this problem. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Nigel Hinch.
Thank you, Chair. I've had the pleasure of working with the Afghans who have become residents of West North Hants over the last 2 years. And the voluntary and community social enterprise sector has really worked hard to support them, including members opposite, who I think we should also thank for the support that they've given to these refugees that have come here. My previous career working with the armed forces, so I have a great understanding of the work that these people did for the UK forces and this country in Afghanistan before they had to leave. So I'm totally supportive of this proposal to deliver housing for the Afghan community, and I look forward to them supporting West North Hants, both in an economic sense and from becoming residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jonathan Nunn.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just to pick up on a few points, then I know Councillor Brown will come in. The question on why not do this in-house from the start is actually this ties in very much with the comments that Mrs. Lineker made. Our absolute priority is building those homes for local people that we need for the 4,000 people who are waiting. There's little doubt about that. I've mentioned a couple of times before that in the borough, for 20 years, we built 8 homes. We have now built, since the MPH programme started, I think it's 400 or 500. Adam will know the exact figure. But we can't build them fast enough. We do lose them through the right to buy. If you mean lose, they're still occupied by local families, so they're not lost as such, but they're lost from the social circulation. Our thought was that we could not put money in if it were possible to do this through the housing associations. They haven't been able to pull out quick enough, so what do? It's government money, it sits there. Do we want it for residents of West Northants or not? The question before us is, do we want that money? The answer is yes. Let's not let the government money slip by. These homes will remain as social homes in circulation, and the first occupiers in time will move on and so on. So let's take every opportunity to get this money for West Northants, but that's the reason why we didn't at first endeavour to do it all in-house. We can't hand that money back. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Emma Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, I welcome the borrowing. It's something that we absolutely need. I think we need to be careful in referencing communities as local and not local, because many of these people will settle here and will be part of Northamptonshire and be part of our communities and our families, and I welcome them all. We've absolutely got to accept the borrowing. We've got to do that. There's one question I had around the break-even point over the 40-year period. The report confirms the break-even point, but I don't, unless I've missed it, I don't think it tells us when. So if we could just clarify when that is over, when the ROI is on the 40-year period. Thank you.
Thank you. The seconder of the motion, Councillor David Smith.
Nothing to add. All good words. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Brown to respond.
Thank you, Chairman. I welcome the broadly positive comments from across the chamber on this matter. It is important that we rally together and see the merit in this approach that's been offered to us by government. I share Councillor Purser's statement that this is an urgent matter, and we need to approach the needs of those on the housing waiting list already with equal urgency. We are doing so. There is no longer a freeze on the capital programme to deliver social housing through the housing revenue account. So long as individual schemes stack up financially, then NPH or other developers involved with social housing schemes are good to go. We couldn't have done this in-house from the start, because the viability of this scheme is contingent upon that subsidy being provided by government. And the paper makes it very clear just how large that subsidy is. It's not a time to look like gift horse in the mouth. The implications for the families leaving hotels are being closely examined both by the communities team and the housing team. Each individual family is being monitored, being advised appropriately, and will continue to be looked after until they have their housing needs settled and satisfied. Before I came here tonight, I did predict that Councillor Bearsworth would be banging the drum again on the right to buy. I can confirm that right to buy won't automatically apply for these houses because of the tenure types involved. Councillor Harris mentions various national issues. We're always in dialogue with DLUC. We're always putting forward bids for funding programmes that we may be eligible for and demanding more from them. And actually, I think if you look through the last 2 annual reports that this council has produced, it sets out just how much money we have been successful in obtaining from DLUC. Millions upon millions of pounds invested both in homelessness and social housing. So I think our record's pretty good on that. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that we move to the vote.
Thank you. We now proceed to the vote on recommendations set out at paragraph 3.1 of the report, that we agree the recommendation of Cabinet to approve an increase in the capital programme of 10.907 million, additional funding / borrowing in the HRA account to deliver LAHF R1 and R2 programmes. Please vote now. For, against, or abstain. There we are. We have 70 votes in favour with no other votes being cast. The motion is clearly carried. Thank you very much indeed. That concludes today's business. The next meeting will be Thursday, 28th September. Thank you.